Welcome, viewers, back to the Preaching Humanist with David Oliverio. That is I. All right, today I'm going to discuss the origin of secular humanism. And before I get into the topic, and this will probably be a two-part series, I want to make sure all you viewers out there, whether you're fellow atheists, secular humanists, agnostics, and even believers, Christians and Muslims and Jews, I want everyone to understand, when I talk about secular humanism, I'm talking about my worldview, my philosophy, my belief system. But I'm a very, very strong atheist. Atheism is simply my lack of belief in a God. Without faith in a God, my secular humanism is what I preach. My secular humanism is what I and many others advance and progress into to make this world better every day. So I want to talk about the origin of secular humanism. The last two episodes, I've discussed why we should build a secular humanist community and how to do that. I've been doing some public speaking in secular groups as well, talking about this very topic. And I'm going to share my short little vision with you. And before we get into the message, I've been fighting Christianity and religion as an activist for many years now. I think it's good to challenge believers' thinking, to teach them how to use critical thinking and get them to think, right? But I'm finding maybe a better way to do this. I think all ways and methods of activism are good. I see that all of us have different techniques and methodologies. But what I'm finding to be true, at least for me and some others that I know, that by building a community, much like a church, where we have people coming together, lacking supernatural belief, but we take the good from the church, which is the community and helping each other and so forth, all the good things that churches offer, we can build a secular community. How about this? How about a building and buildings on corners in the future? I know I'm being an idealist here, but on the corners, having buildings with signs out there, a secular humanist community of reason and compassion, motivated by science and so forth, and helping this world with no supernatural beliefs. How much better would it be, a world without religion? Most of us would agree with me. I think this is a wonderful way to inform believers that they can let go of their supernatural beliefs and come on over and find out that secular humanism has everything that churches offer you, but more. It has reality, more empathy, more sympathy, more compassion for our fellow humans, and definitely more egalitarianism, and a much healthier society than a religious society. So today, the origin of secular humanism, I'm going to start you way back BCE, back in the days of Epicurus. In fact, one of my favorite Greek philosophers, Epicurus, began to teach a beautiful philosophy, didn't understand what the word humanism was back then, but he taught about a description of humanism and a teaching centered upon the maximizing of life here and now on earth without beliefs in gods. In other words, not being controlled by gods. Now, many believers even today would call this hedonism. And I'll tell you what, when I discuss this with believers, they would say, well, you're just a pure hedonist. This is very selfish. Secular humanism is based upon humanity with no gods. Well, that's correct. Now, selfishness, I'd have to disagree. I think secular humanism offers a lot of unselfishness, that dual human nature that we have as humans. Most of us that progress into secular humanism as atheists or agnostics tend to think about others as well. We want to reach out and help the needy. So hedonism, a lot of people are going to call it hedonism or selfishness. I get it from believers all the time when I go out there and talk about activism and tell them, hey, I go to a group of unbelievers. It's a secular group. We do the same thing you do in church. We come together, we enjoy each other's company, we reach out to the community, we give donations to people that have been devastated by hurricanes like we've had recently here in America the last few weeks. We do the same thing believers do. The big difference is, I tell believers this, is we don't believe in the deities or gods or anything supernatural. So let's go ahead and continue with a little world history here. Now, a few hundred years later, after Epicurus, when he was talking about this beautiful philosophy of humanism, Lucretius, another one of my favorites, wrote a poem back between 99 and 55 CE called On the Nature of Things. Here in this poem, he explained the beautiful teaching and philosophy of Epicurus, being good, finding fulfillment and meaning in life without beliefs in a God. Now we have something that happened. In about 300 or 400 Common Era, this is where we have Constantine, the Emperor Constantine, making Christianity the religion of the Roman Empire. There we see a slight decline of religion, of secularism, and an increase of religion. That's when we have the start of the Dark and Middle Ages. An interesting thing happened from 300 on, all the way up to the Middle Ages. We see a lack of using the human enlightened mind, which was humanism, and we begin to see people shutting off the human mind and taking supernatural beliefs over reality. Now, that went on, as we know, for the Dark Ages. And then in the early 1400s, now I want to really stress this, something happened here. The poem was discovered, the poem by Lucretius about Epicurus and the beautiful philosophy of humanism, was discovered by a paisan of mine. Now, I'm Italian, I like to say these Italian words. The guy's name was Lorenzo Medici. Lorenzo Medici, in a town called Florence, Italy, in northern Italy, discovered the poem by Lucretius about humanism. Now, Lorenzo Medici was the secretary to the Pope in the Vatican. He discovered this poem in the archives. He translated it into Latin, and he read the poem. He enjoyed it so much. He liked this philosophy of humanism so much. He was a thinker. He enjoyed reading that humans can progress and make the world better without beliefs in gods. And he began to share this beautiful philosophy with his family, his friends, and it began to spread throughout the entire region of northern Italy in Florence. This particular philosophy of humanism became the cultural lifestyle. The humanist philosophy was the motivating force for the Renaissance. Now understand, when religion, Christianity, and Islam ruled, we had the Dark and Middle Ages. We had the Crusaders, the Inquisition, and so forth. Horrible, dark time in human history. What brought us out as a species of the Dark and Middle Ages? It sure the hell wasn't Jesus or Allah. It wasn't the Bible or the Quran. It was secular humanism bringing us into the Renaissance. From there, we went into the Enlightenment and so forth. So let's continue. Humanism became the bridge. Now, I used to preach that Jesus was the bridge from sin to righteousness, the bridge that brought us from a sinful life into that relationship with God, right? Well, reality is, secular humanism became the bridge between the Dark Middle Ages, where religion ruled, and a lot of believers want to go back and make the Bible or the Quran the law of the land. We know the Constitution is the law of the land. So humanism became the bridge between the Middle Ages and modern history, the Enlightenment. It wasn't Jesus, it wasn't religion that brought us out, it was the human enlightened mind in the 14th to the 17th century. Christian thinking brought us into the Dark Middle Ages. The Renaissance and the Enlightenment brought us out. Now, let me give you a little idea of the Christian worldview during the Middle Ages. I'm going to read for you a quote back in about 329 to 379 CE, around the age of Constantine. This was a quote from Saint Basil, excuse me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, the Great. He was instrumental in many things in the Catholic Church, promoting the Bible and so forth. Here's his quote: "Let us, Christians, prefer the simplicity of our faith to the demonstrations of human reason. For to spend much time on research about the essence of things would not serve the edification for the church." There's not much more I have to say about that. That's pretty clear. Christianity is not a religion of science. It's not a religion of rationalism. It's a belief system based on blind faith versus the human enlightened mind. In fact, in Colossians chapter 2, if I remember my Bible right, Paul the Apostle encouraged the New Testament believers to avoid and stay away from the enlightened human mind. He said, "Take heed that no one captivates you or influences you to anything other than the Bible. Avoid it at all cost." If it doesn't line up with the Bible, avoid it. Stay away from it. In other words, people that think and use the human enlightened mind have not gotten that message from a God. They got it from Satan. Well, let me give you another quote. This one was from one of my favorites of all time, Bertrand Russell. Bertrand Russell once said, "Most people would rather die than think," and many of them actually do. A guy named Richard Westphal, a historian of science, says, "Following the birth of modern science, the age of unshaken faith was lost to Western man." So here we have the beautiful origin of our beautiful, enriched philosophy we call secular humanism. And as an atheist, that is my lack of belief in God, but I proclaim secular humanism. And I'm very excited about being a part of a growing secular humanist community where we can come together with human enlightened minds and discuss the problems of the world and discuss how we can help humanity continually progress ahead without supernatural beliefs. So I will continue on this topic in part 2. I want to thank you for watching the Secular Humanist channel here and the Preaching Humanist with David Oliverio. Have a wonderful day. And remember, no God is required for a life of love, joy, peace, fulfillment, meaning, and purpose in life. And the good life is motivated by reason and compassion and love. Have a wonderful day.